Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. I am playing in my handy size journal today from Art by Marlene, and I'm going to create a little page using a bird and Marlene's stamp set with the little bird cages on there. On the other side of this page I used one of Marlene's sunshine faces and I adhered it with a split pin or a brad to my page. So I've just stuck a little bit of stencil tape over the top of it to try and hide that brad, but the stencil tape is quite shiny, glossy. It's not matte, so it didn't take the paint too well, but in the end you can't really see it, so it's okay. So I grabbed out a little bird from the Paper Elements book, and it was like a green and yellow, so I wanted to do a contrasting background. So I used Lavender, Royal and Ballet, and I just smeared some paint onto my paper with a paintbrush, just for each of the colors in 3 different places. And when I was done with that, I just quickly gave it a dry, and now I'm going to go in with this hexagon star stencil and just do a little bit of reductive stenciling. So reductive stenciling is when you put paint down and then the stencil goes over the top and you wipe the paint away through the stencil instead of sponging through the stencil. I hope that made sense, but if it didn't, you can see what I'm doing there. I am drying my layers off in between. One thing with reductive stenciling is you have to make sure that your bottom layer is dry. Otherwise, when you go over the top and you wipe that paint away, it's going to wipe away the bottom layer as well. So you won't have that bottom color coming up. So you can see there in the right hand corner, you can see that royal sitting over the top. You can see the lavender, a little bit of the lavender peeping through with the stenciling, and then you can also see the ballet right at the bottom of that stack. And that is because the layers were all nice and dry. I also went in with a little bit of lace paint, which is Marlene's white paint, and just to add a little bit of brightness back onto the page, I chose to go with lace. Okay, so I grabbed out my stamp set and I wanted to do these little bird cages. And I'm just going to stamp out 3 on a watercolor paper sheet that I've got, and then I will color them in and fussy cut them. So I grabbed out my watercolor paints from Marlene, and I do have the bird there because I wanted to just use it as a reference for color. Because it stood out so nicely on the background, I decided that I would stick to the colors that are in the bird, and that's like the greens. So when you look at the color wheel, green and purple sits like opposite each other, so they are good contrasting colors. You can't mix them together, that'll make brown, but if you use them to have contrasting colors, they work really well. They pop off of each other very well. Next, when I've dried my watercolor, I'm just going in with my paint pens and I'm adding some details and some shading and whatnot, and just just giving them a little bit more life and vibrancy and variety. They're all also different from each other. I didn't want 3 exact looking cages. So they are a little bit different, same but different. And then I'm going to fussy cut them. You don't have to watch me doing that. And then once I put them onto the page, I thought that they didn't look quite right to me. So they looked like they were just stuck on. So in an effort to try and blend them into the background, I've gone in with my purple paint pen as well, and also pink, just to bring that background color forward a little bit into those cages. So it looks like you kind of looking through the cage to the background. Not exactly, it would have been better if I stamped it on top of the colors on the background, but then I don't think I would have gotten such bright vibrancy from the green paint pens that I've got in there, if that makes sense. I'm quickly adding the details back in with my black paint pen. This is a Life of Color black paint pen, and it's got a very fine tip, so I could draw in some of those lines very easily. And then I'm also going to add white again. But first, I am clipping a little hole, tiny little hole, into the top bit there where I guess the string or the chain that keeps the cage hanging would go through, just to make it feel a little bit more real, even though this is not real bird cages. I wanted to have somewhere for my bird to sit on, so I grabbed out one of Marlene's older stamp sets. I think this is the one with the post box and a little mouse, I think. I don't know what it's called, I'm so sorry. And it's got a little branch there. So I stamped that branch out onto my paper, and I'm just going to color in using my paint pens, just adding a little bit of brown and pink for the flowers, and there'll be green leaves, just to make sure that the bird has a colorful little spot to be perched on. And then I've got my little bird cages, and then I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to stick it down now without fussing too much longer, because, when you keep fussing with things and faffing and moving them about, then eventually you get so paralyzed with indecision that gluing them down becomes really hard. So at this stage, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go in and stick them down, and then it is what it is, and I will work around whatever is there. So gluing down my little cages before I could change my mind again. That one on the left there took a little while to stick down properly because the brad was underneath it, and it wasn't happy with with the situation. Drawing in some lines and little bows for the cages, and then I'm going in and adding white details. Just a little bit of white highlights makes all the difference in the world. And I'm extending those highlights down into the branch that I did and onto the bird, just brightening it up a little bit more. I lost my Stabilo All pencil momentarily, but I actually paused the video and went off camera and to find it, but I did find it. And because I have the highlights on the left side, I am doing shadows on the right side of my cages and of my bird, and a little bit of shadowing in the branch and the flowers there, just to help pop them off the background a little bit. And then I felt like it wasn't quite strong enough, so I've gone in with a little bit of punk paint as well to just deepen up those shadows a bit, and I really like the way that that turned out. I thought it felt like a little bit more of a natural shading than before. I'm going to finish off with first a little bit more white. In my page, I'm using a white paint pen, and I'm just doing this gibberish stamp in that paint pen and stamping it all over, making sure I'm cleaning the paint off really well. And then I'm going to finish off with a quote, and my quote says, "Born to be free," because I have no judgments on anybody here who has birds, but I personally do not like having caged birds. It makes me very happy to see birds out in nature, and it makes me kind of sad when I see them in cages. So my little birdie was born to be free, and now he is. Little white highlight, and that's it for today's page. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for all your lovely comments. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe to my channel, and let me know your makes in the community section of the YouTube channel. It's a new feature that they've got. Okay, bye.